Peg Fitzpatrick on the call. And Peg, I've seen you on HubSpot. That's where I first saw you when you did the one presentation on HubSpot. And I was floored and said I had to have you. I had to have you on the show. And I'm so honored to have you on the show today.
Thank you. What HubSpot presentation did you see?
It was the one with you and Guy, and you were explaining the differences between the different platforms, Twitter and Facebook and so forth. And I was like, wow, this is some good stuff. I need to see if she can share this with my audience as well.
All right.
And then, of course, I love Canva. I love y'all's Canva app. It's really beneficial. And I found that from that presentation. Awesome. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm not a graphic designer, but I can look like a graphic designer, like that thing. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I was like, I can actually look like a graphic designer with this tool. That's awesome. That was cool.
I don't actually work with Canva any longer, but I am a Canva user. Guy is still the Canvangelist. He's still their chief evangelist, but he'll be happy to know that you still use it and that you found Canva through that interview. So that's awesome. It shows you right there that social media works, right? Because you see something that people are talking about. It gives it some value. There's so many things out there now. It's like, how do you even know what to test and try? There's constantly new stuff popping up every day. So it's great to get a recommendation from somebody and, get some ideas on how to use it. So.
That's true. And that's one of the challenges I've seen with when I consult with companies, that they get so caught up in all the new tools, the shiny new things, and they never perfect any of them. They just switch gears every time they get a blog post about something new and they switch gears. How do you address those challenges?
That's a really good question, because that is common. People do that a lot. They get so wrapped up in the tools. And honestly, social media is not about the tools. It's about your business. So what you need to do is focus on your business and how you need to reach people. So the most important thing is finding out what your message is going to be, and then how to share it is the other part of it. And it is important, which you don't want to waste your time, using tools that aren't going to help your business. And it is important to stay up to date on things, yes. But as a small business owner or somebody who's doing your own marketing, making sure that you stay on your message should take a good amount of your time. It takes a lot of time to plan your content, write your materials, talk about your product and services. So those things are much, much more important than how you're going to get it out there. So it is important. What I do is I'm always staying up to date on the social media tools, but just because something new pops up as a small business owner, that doesn't mean you have to do it. I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn my phone.
Yeah. And sure.
Go ahead.
And I mean, that's a good lesson also for bigger companies too. Enterprise companies, you don't have to always jump on the shiny new technique. Your agencies may recommend it, but like Peg stated, the message is the most important thing. Getting that crafted correctly, and then the platforms out there are just the assistant.
Yeah. Depending on your industry, it does depend on your industry. Some people, if you are a social media professional, I think that's part of what maybe people out that are not social media marketers get caught up in the message from the social media marketers. Like for me, that is my business. My business is knowing all the latest things and being on social platforms and all those kind of things. So that's a little confusing. Like you read a blog and you're like, yes, I need to definitely be on this and definitely be on that. And I've had the same thing, like at industry events where a small business owner who still can't figure out if they should be on Facebook. Hello, yes, you should. And like, should we be on Snapchat? We heard Snapchat is the new thing. No, you shouldn't be on Snapchat. Like, you don't even know what it is. You don't know who you're going to reach. You don't know how to use this social platform. So why, it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like, stop throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You got to figure out your marketing message and who you need, who your clients are going to be, and then figure out the other pieces. But don't focus on just all the other pieces. That's why it's great to follow, some people that you know and trust on social media so you can learn from them. But also, you don't need to flit around and follow a whole bunch of people, because you're going to end up with a whole bunch of different messages there. And that's also confusing.
That's a good point. And you must be talking to me about the Snapchat, because over the past few months, I've been like, should I be on Snapchat? Gary Vee said I should be on Snapchat, so I maybe should be on Snapchat. But I haven't figured out how to use Snapchat. So,
right. So that's a problem, right? If you don't know how to use it. So
it is.
Right. And now all the marketers are on Snapchat. So now the age is going up. I saw an article yesterday that said all the elders that are 35 and older are now hitting Snapchat. And I was like, are you kidding me? The elderly are now 35. So to the millennials, the elderly, I guess we start getting Social Security now at 35. So
it must be.
I know,
and the
right?
interesting thing about it is, who do I ask about how to use Snapchat? A 12-year-old. I'm like, you've been on Snapchat for a while. Show me how to use this.
Yeah. Snapchat is really fun. I really do like Snapchat, but for a business that's going to do marketing, are your clients on Snapchat yet? Yes, you do need to know how to use it before you can get on there, but are your clients there? That's the most important thing. People are moving there, though. I mean, it's definitely, it's growing. I think it's going to grow past the growth that Instagram had, which was super fast. So, right now it's fast and, it's super fun because it's like you only see things for a certain amount of time. So it's kind of your exclusive content. It's kind of like, so for you, if you were using Snapchat, you could go on Snapchat before you're doing an interview and be like, hey, I'm going to go on, I'm going to do this interview, come and check it out. It's going to be on Google. You can't add a link to it, but you can tell people to go there. So it's kind of like the what's happening right now kind of thing. Maybe what Twitter was, 4 or 5 years ago.
That's a good point. Actually, I've heard that Snapchat is starting to outpace Twitter now. So it's definitely something to look into, but develop a strategy before you just dive in and do it. So, and I have looked at Snapchat, since it is a limited amount of time that the content is up, to making it more for exclusive things. Exclusive offers, maybe workshops that you're just doing on Snapchat. You better get in now. It won't be here tomorrow. That type of thing. So
you can actually download your Snapchats. You just have to do it in a 24-hour period. So you have to, like, if you make something really awesome, you can download it onto your phone and upload it somewhere else. And they're coming. There was a new thing that I think it was a Snap Story. I haven't investigated that fully yet. Just yesterday, I saw something where it's going to maybe have some longer term content. But, even Snapchat is evolving. They're all changing constantly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that brings me to another great point. You are your business, not the platform. So a lot of people, they invest everything into the platform, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. You are the business, and even Google. And so don't let them run your business. You run your business. Because if they go the way of, like, let's say, remember MySpace? MySpace used to be the Facebook, but now MySpace is a music portal. So if you're not in the music industry, really, it's not going to do you any good.
Right. And you should always have your own home base. I call my blog like your own home base. You need your own domain, because that's the only thing that you own on the internet. That's it. You don't own all your tweets. You don't own your Facebook posts, your Instagram. You technically own the images and things that you create, depending on the terms of services. Some of them say post there that they technically own the information and they can do whatever they want with it. Like, you agree to things in the terms of service that you
Yeah, that's true. That you didn't read in that long list of terms and conditions.
Did you lose me for a second?
I lost you for a second, but we transitioned right in.
I know.
You have dual connections.
I see that. I'll see if I can leave out of, I don't know which one's live. This one is, I'll delete this one.
We can leave it.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to mess with it since it, so anyway, what I was saying is you definitely want your own home base on the internet. You want your own
Mhm.
domain that you'll always own, that you can put your long, your long form content on there because social media, all of them are someone else's platform. Instagram isn't
Yeah.
ours, Twitter isn't ours. So those are kind of all a rotating, cast of players, if you will. And you really need your own place that is yours, especially as a business that Google can
Mhm.
find. Do you want to lead all your traffic to Mark Zuckerberg or, all the people who own that's what happens. Even if you're a blogger and you choose to blog on LinkedIn, that's owned by Microsoft now.
Yes. Yeah, I just saw that for
Yeah.
a big amount. So
Yeah.
kudos to LinkedIn for that.
I know.
Um,
Jeff Wiener's got to
yeah,
be the happiest
payoff.
dude in town. I know, LinkedIn. But yeah, that's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's someone else's real estate.
yeah, that's true. Now, you built a empire of your own, and I'm not here to put everything out there
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, but you have over 1 million people that are following you strong. Is it important to look at
Mm-hmm.
those numbers or the type of people following you? So, sometimes companies get caught up into, I need to have X amount of followers.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, how do you weigh the importance between quality and quantity of followers?
Quality is always more important. I mean, it's great to have a big number so you can say I have X number of followers, but the reality is that that doesn't matter. It matters who's commenting on your content, who's sharing your content, and who's interested in what you have to say. So building a small following of people who really are interested in what you say is the most important. I was really lucky that Google Plus added me into their they recommend me. I'm a Google Plus suggested user. So
Mhm.
have such a big number. I do work really hard on all the social platforms I'm on, and I've built them all
Mhm.
up to pretty good numbers. It does take a lot of work. Is that the most important thing, a big number? It's not. It is something that some people look at. Does it help
Mhm.
some people get hired for things? It does. I mean, that's where it's a
Mhm.
tricky thing. So in some ways it matters, and in some ways it doesn't. It's like a loaded, hard to answer question. But
Yeah.
if I had to say, like, which would I rather have, 1 million followers or, 2,500 followers that really cared about what I had to say, I would take 2,500 followers who are
Mhm.
really invested in my message.
Okay, and that makes sense. I know that a lot of times we do get caught up in that big number, and we start looking at we have to have millions of followers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
And
think I
then
saw
people
one
go
ad.
buy them,
Oh,
people
go ahead.
go buy the followers, and then they have no interaction whatsoever. So it doesn't,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't help you, especially on Facebook. Like Facebook now is really with all their changes that they keep making, like it matters if you have followers that aren't actively engaged in your content, it's going to hurt all your content. So it doesn't
Oh,
help. So they have algorithms that
yeah.
are like, they're weighing your post like, are people liking it? Are people ignoring it? Are they hiding you? Like they're gauging all those things and it's counting against your posts being shown in the news feed.
Okay. Now, does it affect your ad amount? Google has quality score. Facebook now has their ad platform. Does it affect that as well?
They actually rate all your ads. So when you do an ad, if it doesn't do very well, they give it like a negative rating that you can see in your back end. So it does hurt your
Oh,
page.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I know
Good
that
to
they
know.
have a lot of information in there, and Google does all those things too. I mean, the hard part is a marketer. They only tell us part of the story. We're always guessing to try to figure out like, does Google want this? Does Facebook want that? And I've always
Yeah.
been like, I'm not an SEO person. I really
Hmm.
propose social media optimization for things. Using
Hmm.
social media to talk about all your brand and what you're sharing. So those are the things that are, and I write for, humans, not for the SEO aspect. I try to use keywords, but you can't guess what Google wants. Nobody knows the exact algorithm. So following these, shady kind of methods to do things, Google eventually figures out what the shady people are doing and they penalize you for it. So Facebook kind of doing the same thing. I mean, if people spent the amount of time really working instead of trying to game things, they would do a lot better.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and I tell people all the time, Google is in business for Google, and so is Facebook, and you need to understand that. So if you're just doing it for them, if they change things, which they do often, then you're going to be hurting. So, so you have built your empire because I read some of your stuff because of your passion for social media, and if you move a little bit to the side, there is a banner with a hashtag that says Art of Social. You have definitely invested in social media. Yeah. When it comes to people looking at their time and how much time they have to invest in social media and what should they put, what would you recommend as far as a best practice for that?
So is this for like a small business or for an individual that wants to grow a social presence, or like who are your?
I would say twofold: for a small business that needs to either do it themselves, or for a company that has a little size that has a team that either is, an agency does it or in-house they do it.
Okay, those are like five. That's like five different things.
Okay. Well, let's look at the individual companies that have to do it themselves.
Okay, so if you're a small business owner, the number one thing is you have to figure out what time you have to do social media. Like, where can you fit in your schedule? And as a small business owner, you always have to wear a ton of different hats. You have things to manage, clients, products. Like, it's really hard for small business owners to find time. So give yourself, I always say, like 2 chunks, a little one in the morning and a little one in the afternoon, and really stay tight in your times, because the biggest problem with social media is once you get in, it's like getting out again. You get in and like, you dive in, you start doing something, and the next thing you know, an hour or 2 is gone, and then a live video is coming on, so you watch that. And you have to really make sure that you're not wasting time on social media. Use your time really productively. So, go in the morning and go in at the end of the day to share content. I like to, pick one time to plan a bunch of content out. So if you could plan like 1 hour where you would do like a planning session for the week, and, look at any sales or specials or anything, holidays, things that are coming up. So you can have time to plan your content, and then like 15 little chunks of time at the beginning of the day and the end of the day for engagement, so you can go on and talk to people, see what's going on in your accounts. But just make sure that you're planning it so you don't end up like just spending a whole bunch of time on Facebook, talking to your family, chatting. Those are the kind of things that make people think that social media isn't productive, because it does take away from productivity if you're, not using your time wisely. So give yourself a schedule and try to just like create a little calendar where you have 2 little chunks and then a bigger chunk to like plan out your content. And then you can actually do really well building a social platform if you stick to that consistently. So can you do more if you spend more time? Yes. Like then if you want to add like doing a live video into your Facebook page once a week, then you would need to, plan out what you're going to do on your video, write out your intro, write out what you're going to talk about, and then, schedule a post saying that you're going to do this, and then actually the time to do the interview or the whatever the video is going to be about. And then you'd have to, after that, respond to comments and questions again, hopefully, because people would be interested. So it's all like just scheduling it in the time. It's hard because you do need to be consistent. You need to stay on top of things, all the time. I read an article recently that said, all the big companies are really looking at social media like it's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and it's really not. And that's, they all want to have people that everybody wants to work like their little whatever 9 to 5 job, and social media is at night and it's on the weekend, and brands can do a lot better. This one was about Instagram in particular. The brand posts do much better at night and on the weekend because that's when people have time and they're really on Instagram. So their clients are on at different times, but they want to work 9 to 5. So you have to figure out like how it's going to work in your business. So all the big businesses are saying, we're not going to hire, a couple different shifts of people. And with Instagram, you can only post live. You can't schedule anything. So it's coming up with a balance of how to do things. So the main thing is to figure out first what your message is, as I said at the beginning. And then second, can you plan in those little chunks of time, and then stick with it consistently, and learn as you go. If you don't know all the things, just start out small on one social platform and make that one really good before moving on to other things. And if there's other shiny things that come up, that doesn't mean that you should just add another one or drop one thing to start another thing, because it really does take time to grow on any social platform. You can't show up and just all of a sudden you have a bunch of people paying attention to you and your message. It does take time and consistency. Just like any small business, if you were, the brick and mortar has to be like downtown in the location for people to see it and then think, oh, I'm going to stop in there someday. And we all have those places in our town where we think, oh, I should stop in there. And we never do. Then, a year or two goes by and it closes because nobody stopped by, so you don't want to be that person that isn't there enough to be noticed.
That makes sense. And you transition to the point of the larger companies, which usually they have a department or they have an agency. On that aspect, would it be more of editorial calendars just to manage what needs to be put out, or how should they manage their time?
And that's a totally different kind of plan. I mean, those people, that's their job. So they're doing it all day long, literally all day long. Then you're having meetings with people and discussing content and who's going to do what pieces, and you're creating content. So it's totally different than a small business, because a small business owner has to do everything from, the idea to creating it, to posting it, to the engagement, where a large company would have, meetings to discuss what they're going to do. Then they're deciding on who's going to create it. Then they're creating content. Then they're discussing the creative content. It's a way longer process for content creation. And the brands that are doing well on it, they'll even have, one person out for Mercedes, for example, they'll have like one social media manager for each social channel. And then they'll manage parts of it, but they still work with agencies on top of that. So a lot of the brands work with agencies, and it's just, it turns into it's a lot of
monster.
Yeah. So you can't really see how much time things in, because then you're talking teams and teams of people, the production quality for, even a little 1-minute Snapchat video that's a brand content that they're paying to have posted. It's a lot. They're spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on social media content. Because for big brands, it's like just a switch from their advertising from TV and other things, they're moving into like YouTube advertising, and, and then it's, the same for their social media. They're creating like full-blown, videos and advertising campaigns. And so big brands look at it as it's different. They have big budgets and they have big teams. So the time, it's impossible for me to calculate how much that would take them.
Exactly. Well, what's one, I would say, takeaway strategy that you would say to get a business up and started with doing social media the right way?
Okay, so if you're going to get started, I think it's pretty fair to assume at this point that you may need to do some advertising spending, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter, but the cost is still really low. So it is affordable even for small to medium-sized businesses. So the days are kind of past where you can just show up and post, good content and have people find it. you do need to do some social advertising. So plan a little bit in your budget to spend a little bit for ads. And I'm really
Mm-hmm.
talking small, like $5 or $10 a week on Facebook can
Mm-hmm.
do really well. You just need to make sure that you're learning how to target your ads. So it's going to
Okay.
be a matter of, maybe working with somebody to help figure out what your brand design and brand style is going to be, because that's always
Mm-hmm.
important, to have a good logo, to have all your design pieces in place, and then, coming up with a plan for yourself. So what's it's hard to boil it down to one thing.
Okay.
Don't expect that it's going to all happen in one snap really quickly. It does take time to
Mm-hmm.
build, like any marketing is, hard to measure. It's not like sales where you can see numbers, the store sold this much today and this much the next day. Marketing is more brand awareness, and yes, you do have people that can click and buy from that, but it does take time. So be patient with whatever plans you work with. Be prepared to like create it and work on it a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, and then go back and tweak things as you need to. So be patient and stick with it is the best thing, to like know that you have to put some work in to make it work.
Okay. And that's great advice. So, everybody, I would like to thank you for listening and thank the amazing Peg Fitzpatrick for being on this show and sharing this valuable information. It's been a lot. It's been a lot that I've learned, and hopefully you've learned as well. So, Peg, thanks once again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having